See, Mr. Kustoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here today. I represent an area in West Tennessee and in the Memphis area, and I recently, a couple of weeks ago, convened a banking roundtable of some of my good community banks in the Dyersburg, Tennessee area. And one issue that really drove the conversation was that of CRAs, or the Community Reinvestment Act. And if I can, to put it in perspective, one of the banks that I met with in the district talked about how they were required to open up a branch for CRA purposes. And it's now losing about $100,000 a year. I think that this speaks to the outdated requirements of the CRA when it comes to brick and mortar facilities, those physical banks. The regulators have increasingly included in their CRA examinations criteria that's unrelated to the CRA, including compliance with other financial laws or consumer regulations that have their own standards and penalties for violations. In my district, one example that I heard is that these banks are being subjected to fair lending questions during their CRA exams. Mr. Secretary, in your role as Secretary at the Treasury, do you envision modernizing the CRA to better suit the needs of the financial institutions and the communities that they serve?
We do. It's something we're actually working on now. It's something that I actually think we're focused on, really recommendations as to how it can better serve the community. I think in many places, banks are spending a lot of money and that they're not going to the right places. So we're going to be working with members in the community and banks to try to come up with proposed solutions.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. You've begun a review of the CRA then?
We have.
And do you know when you expect to release findings from the report?
It is over the next couple of months that we would hope to be able to do that.
Are there aspects of your recommendations that will come out that could be accomplished without rulemaking?
Again, that's something that as we go through, we're going to look at carefully. Some of it we may be able to do through the regulators. Some of it may require changes in legislation. But
thank you, Mr. Secretary. And one aspect that I think that the banks in my district do exceptionally well is financial literacy. However, if the financial literacy, unless it's done in a very specific area, it doesn't count towards the CRA requirements. Is there a way to modernize that?
that is one of the specific things we are looking at, and one of the things that I had specific experience in as a banker. I think there's tremendous need for financial literacy in the public school systems.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And I'd like to yield the remainder of my time to the chairman.
I think